5555 Jacksonville. Now, get ready to spend the next 2 hours with our sports-loving ladies, Lauren Brooks and Taylor Dahl.
This is Helmets and Heels
on 1010XL.
Hey, show me what you got, pretty lady.
Well, Taylor, I feel like today is a perfect day to talk some football. What do you say?
I think so, too, even though we have no football right now.
There may not be football on the field. That does not stop us.
Never ends. It never ends.
Of course it does not, especially around here. And we appreciate our friends from Chick-fil-A dropping off some Chick-fil-A sandwiches and peach milkshakes. So.
Yes. Shout out to Chick-fil-A because they do have a new sandwich right now. It's only here for 6 weeks, so you have to swing by within this next 6 weeks. And Jacksonville is the only Chick-fil-A that has it right now, actually. It's a creamy barbecue sandwich. And so we have it. We're going to test it out. We're going to test out the peach milkshakes, too, which I'm excited about that. But swing by because it does sound delicious. It has a creamy barbecue coleslaw, so it has that crunchy, tangy feel if you like that with the sandwich, which I'm a big fan of that. And also sweet heat pickles, which I'm super excited about, too, because if you know me, I'm a pickle girly. So very excited about this sandwich. But yeah, go check it out if you want. The local Chick-fil-A's here in town have it.
I can't believe we're the only city.
I know. That is kind of crazy.
I bet
we're very special.
I bet it sells out. And
they're
then
like the South loves barbecue.
The South does love barbecue. You got that right. All right. Getting it to football, we found out today that Jason Light of the general manager of the Bucs and also Todd Bowles, the head coach, both get extensions, multi-year contract extensions. No surprise there. I think you lock up the people when they do a good job. And both, obviously, the roster of the Bucs, the way that it's grown in the last 5 years, and certainly Light has been there since, he's been there for 12 years. Yeah, so some of the bad years for sure, but the last 5 years have been really good for the Bucs. And then Todd Bowles, of course, has been a part of this playoff push that they've made the last few years. So I think that's a smart move. We here, of course, will not be talking about a multi-year contract extension for James Gladstone, the new general manager. I would guess at least a year. Maybe more than that. If the Jaguars were to make not just a postseason run, but if they got as far as they did in 2022, I then would not be surprised if Shad Khan was starting to award things.
Already, yeah.
But that's, of course, early. We're not going to get to that necessarily. But I do think that if, obviously, the Jaguars see success, James Gladstone will be here quite some time.
Yeah, I think with general managers, it's definitely more than a one-season sample size that you have to see, and that goes both ways. One season of bad does not mean that this general manager is bad. One season of good does not mean the general manager is technically good. And I think that, honestly, I think the Bucs are a prime example of that because they did give him, he was on the hot seat for a minute. There was those Jameis years where it didn't look good. They weren't winning a ton of games. The roster, even with pieces like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, they weren't winning a lot. And so it looked like there was a little bit of that panic button starting to get hit. They got saved by a guy named Tom Brady. Tom Brady comes into town and they win a Super Bowl. And so that breathes life into the organization again. But even after that, Lauren, when Tom Brady decided that year after that he was going to retire and he wasn't going to be there anymore, there was probably this little bit of worry of what are we going to do next? We have this guy that's Tom Brady where you really don't have to do much. Like Tom Brady comes in and can do whatever he wants. And what is next? And what they did next is bring in and revitalize a Baker Mayfield that had been pretty much shoot out the door everywhere else he has been. And so and that's with multiple offensive coordinators too. So it's not even like we talk about Liam Cohen here, but the season before with Baker was playing really, really good too. So they've been able to, we've talked about Todd Bowles being able to kind of just keep those offensive coordinators coming in. They're getting plucked because they're good and they're getting hired other places. And then he finds somebody else and they're still successful, especially offensively. So I do think that really, the Tom Brady, I think, breathed life into some things. But then the rest, what he's done since then has really proven that he's able to keep that organization functional.
Yeah, Light drafted Mike Evans.
Yes.
Because, like I said,
Good
he's
job.
been there 12 years. Yeah. And then Tristan Wirfs, Vita Vea, Anton Winfield Jr., Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving, Kalijah Cansey, Kate Otten, Graham Barton, Luke Gadecki, Cody Mock, who you absolutely love.
I love him, yeah.
As an offensive lineman, and a whole lot more, obviously. Like you said, you win the Super Bowl in 2020. But if you can make it to the postseason year in and year out, and yes, losing offensive coordinators, Dave Canales a couple of seasons ago, that's how he got his job with the head coaching job with the Panthers. If you can do that, you definitely want those people to stay around. All right, so NBC Sports, this is what they write about Jaguars general manager James Gladstone. Like Nick Sirianni before him, Gladstone isn't winning any press conferences. I'm going to stop right there because I totally disagree with that. I think Gladstone has won every press conference, but I guess some people's interpretations, they don't like the way that he talks. And so he goes on to say, or NBC Sports goes on to say, his speaking style of computer program translating millennial English into Zoomer English leaves much misunderstood. Do you agree with that?
Kind of.
Okay.
I think that here we love it because he has been honest about certain things, and we've just not really had that. We've more have had non-answers from Doug Peterson than we did answers, and Doug and James Gladstone and Liam Cohen have both come in here and been very vocal about what's wrong with the roster, what's right, what needs to be fixed. We feel like they've been a little bit more aggressive in times.
Yeah, very transparent as opposed to the past. Yeah.
But he does sound gimmicky sometimes, and like nationally, I'm sure it looks more like that because you haven't seen every press conference, and you haven't watched, just him out at practice, and you haven't seen all of those little things. So all you're seeing is these clips that are going viral that do sound a little like he's reading a script off of something and like a motivational speaker type of thing. And I've seen a lot of those outside of Jacksonville, nationally, and other organizations being like, this guy's like kind of weird, but I also do think he is a little weird. That's okay. I think the weirdos in the NFL a lot of times have that mindset where they're just like you have to have a different mindset to be able to do the job that they're doing. And so I think, not saying that is, and the one caveat to that is I think that's who he really is. I don't think he's being like fake in that at all. And for other people right now, because they don't know James Gladstone, it looks fake. But I think eventually, a few years of this, especially if they're winning, people are going to see it like, oh, that's just his type of personality and who he is. Because like a Mike McDaniel, for example, in the beginning of it, everyone's like, he's kind of strange, and he again is like kind of gimmicky. Is he acting, whatever? And then now you're like, oh no, that's just who he is. So I do think eventually people will just notice that that's just honestly how he talks and who the type of person he is, and he's not playing games, and he's being honest, and the way he speaks is a little different than maybe some people speak, but it's not an act.
I wonder if it's because he's 34 that some people are making fun of that type of thing. I'm mesmerized every time he talks to us. And as people that work in the communication business, we know it's not easy to articulate every single word exactly how you want to. And I feel like he's able to do that. So I guess for some people, they think that, like you said, that it's something that he's putting on for show. But I bet if you were to have conversations with him off of the podium, he's just like that. I mean, I've talked to lots of people who have talked to him outside of the media settings, and that's who he is.
And that's what I'm saying. People probably think it's an act because it does seem a little cheesy at moments, but it's not. It's just truly how he is and how he speaks. And
I love Intangibly Rich.
Yeah. Well, and that we do. Yeah. But I could see nationally and outside other people, because I do remember one of the clips, and maybe I'll try and find it on break and play it. The one that went viral of people being like, no way, this is how this man really speaks on like a daily basis. And I can't remember which one it is, but I'm sure I can find it because it was all over Twitter of people kind of mocking the way that he was talking and being like, this guy's kind of cheesy, and cringe is like some of the words that were being said. But again, I think it's because people think it's fake, and it's not fake, because if you know James Gladstone and you have been closer and now for months covering him, and to your point, knowing other people have talked to him in person and they're like, no, that's how he is.
Yeah, and I guess I think he's really smart. We'll see if that translates to football success on the field.
That's obviously the important part.
Absolutely. All right, so the NBC Sports goes on to say, but as Sirianni can never stop reminding us, it's the actions that matter, not the words. And boy, has Gladstone been a man in action in his first offseason on the job. Although his free agent spending was modest by past Jaguar standards, he still showed serious money on non-core positions. That includes nearly $40 million for guard Patrick McCarry, $21 million for center Robert Hainsey, and $10 million for the number 3 wideout De'Ami Brown. Of course, that whole is De'Ami Brown a 2 or a 3 is a different conversation that we kind of had yesterday. But the real action came in the draft where Gladstone traded up for not only Travis Hunter, but also another interior offensive lineman in Wyatt Milam. Gladstone has decided his Trevor Lawrence-led roster is a quick fix. He could be right. It's just that every GM seems to reach the same conclusion when they have anything resembling even a franchise player under center. Despite his salary, the verdict very much remains out on T-Law. If Lawrence fails to take a step forward in 2025, it will end up being the most painful of learning experiences for this first-time general manager.
Yeah, a few things off of this. Number one, I get and I was on this same train and still am on the same train right now, which it could change, because people said the same thing about the Christian Kirk signing when, talking about overpaying him. That changes year to year just because of the way the contracts change year to year and how the salary cap goes up year to year. I was kind of not impressed much at the free agency at all, but my justification was that there was a lot of holes you had to fill. And when you are a general manager taking over an organization that is coming off a 4-win season and there's a lot of holes and there's a lot of things that need to be fixed, sometimes you do have to overpay players because you need to get guys in this building and sometimes money is what makes that happen at first. That changes. If you start winning some football games, it's a little easier to get some free agents here. People want to come to Jacksonville. It becomes that destination place rather than, it's the Jaguars type of thing. And so, but you see almost every general manager the first year or two, they have to overpay some guys to get them to come there. And so James Gladstone is also proving himself to these players. So part of that, I get they're going to mention some of the numbers when it comes to guys that may not even be starting the whole season on the offensive line. One, I do think Brown is a number 3 wide receiver. And then you get a nickel corner. I don't even think he mentioned that on here. So some people are also like, oh, well, it's a nickel corner that you also made one of the highest paid in the league too. That only lasted like a day because Kyler Gordon obviously got the contract after. But so that I get people talking about it. It's going to be a talking point anytime they feel like somebody's overpaid. But I also think you have to. When you're the beginning of I don't think it's a full rebuild, but this reconstruction of what he had to do with this roster, you have to do that. When it comes to Trevor Lawrence,
Gladstone was hired February 21st for people who forget.
Yeah.
So it's also a little difficult to get everything in order to haul in an entire free agent class. That's exactly what you want because the other guys have already been on this job for years upon years. And And
that's what some of the worry was of why when the Jags were taking so long to figure this out is, okay, you're cutting all the time off of the work that whatever general manager had come in here had to do because you were a month away from the combine at that point. You also had free agency coming right aside from that. So he was rushed into some of the things he did. I wonder if he was hired earlier, if some of the signings would have looked different. He would have had some more of those splashes that we've seen some of the other teams do, especially on the offensive line. But when it comes to Trevor, I don't know if we've talked about this side enough. We've said what does a successful season look like for Trevor Lawrence and, what does the offense look like? How much are all of these pieces going to click? How long is it going to take? What is Liam Cohen going to add to this? But I don't know if we've really had the conversation that if Trevor isn't good at the end, what happens? Like what happens at the end of 2025 if at the end of this season he misses another half a year, or if he only has 19 touchdowns and 11 picks and it doesn't look like, and you've built everything around him, what does that conversation look like at that point? And that's what he's kind of saying here is what does James Gladstone do at that point? Because you're coming to an organization where you feel like you have that franchise quarterback, and what if it's not? How does he handle that? That's a big what if, because we have no idea, and a lot of people, the majority of people in Jacksonville have faith that Trevor will take that step, but it is an interesting conversation to have.
If he doesn't succeed this year, the injury part aside, because if he gets injured again and misses a lot of games, we're going to have the same conversation we've had.
Yeah.
Especially
but do they have a better backup plan? Like, do you say now this is 3 years of Trevor getting hurt, we have to bring somebody in who can actually
If he gets sacked the most, like Caleb Williams did, if he gets sacked the most and again you blame the offensive line, well, yes, that's now more of a direct result on James Gladstone and Liam Cohen for sure. Whereas, this past year, different regime that had these offensive linemen that were in front of him. But that's a different conversation. I think we'd still go back to he needs protection. Mm-hmm. You've got to get different tackles, overhaul the offensive line once again. But the injury aside, if he's not successful this season, I feel like you're talking about trading him to a team that's willing to take on the contract. Yeah. And another team that feels like he is worthy of, or at least he can be quote unquote
that new
fixed.
Environment and
right, that the Baker Mayfield, the Sam Darnold, the Geno Smith, right. Once you move out of Jacksonville and in this environment, we can take him to that next level. And I'm sure there are GMs and coaches that would love to have him right now, and they think he's a moldable, type of product, but he hasn't had the right environment around him yet. And we always say reasons are excuses. Like, I'm going to give him an excuse for year one under Urban Meyer, and the team that was around him was a disaster. The whole thing obviously was a disaster. The next year he was fantastic under Doug Peterson for the second half of the year, really. And then, of course, things regressed, and then there's all those injuries and things like that. But, yeah, if we're sitting here doing this show a year from now and we're saying Trevor Lawrence had 19 touchdowns and 7 interceptions and 2,500 yards and he played a lot of games, there's going to be a big problem. And I don't know that they've even allowed themselves to think like that.
Yeah.
And nor
I don't think
should
you
they.
can.
Yeah,
no.
nor should they.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be a hefty dark cloud over Jacksonville FLA, that's for sure. All right, we've got a fun giveaway to come back with on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
A symphony of sweat, grit, and glory. Dive into the action and live the moments. For play-by-play, it's 1010XL.
Just when you thought we couldn't bring you more, Keon Atlantic is here with a brand new store. We have the same great team to treat you well. With new savings during our grand opening sale, Keon Atlantic is here with the new store. Shop our best offers and largest selection yet. Save big during our grand opening sale. Is there something for everyone on our lot? You bet. If you're ready to experience something new, the all-new Keon Atlantic is ready for you. Your perfect ride is a visit away. Online at KeonAtlantic.com. Keon Atlantic, your coastal Kia connection.
Joint replacement surgery is always a tough decision, but relief from chronic pain may be just around the corner. Dr. George Barra here, and there's a lot to consider to make sure you get the proper diagnosis and best path back to the range of motion and mobility you had. Age, lifestyle, and overall health all play a part. Let the team at Barra Orthopedics give you a full analysis to help you make the best decision. Log on to BarriorOrthopedics.com or call the office to make an appointment. With offices across Jacksonville and ready to help you feel good again, we'll get you back on the road to recovery at Barra Orthopedics.
I'm Max Fink. Join me for the Gator Report on 1010XL as I break down the latest storylines in Gator Nation.
Put together by San Jose Collision on the home of the Florida Gators, 1010XL.
Go, Gators!
Ready to ride the waves? Best Bet St. Augustine is turning up the heat with our Summer Splash promotion. We're giving away over $40,000 in cash and prizes, including a brand new 2025 Yamaha Wave Runner. From now through August 8th, every hour you play poker or table games earns you an entry to win. It all leads up to the grand prize drawing on August 9th. The more you play, the more chances you have. Don't miss your shot to make a splash this summer. Visit bestbetjacks.com for all the details. That's bestbetjacks.com.
Daly's Dash is not only your Jaguars game day stop, but a great place to grab a meal any day of the week. To honor the Jags and the fans, we've crafted the Duval Sub. The Duval comes with freshly sliced turkey, ham, melted cheddar, and habanero jack cheese, topped with crisp lettuce, fresh tomatoes, and a double portion of our secret sauce, all served on a fresh roll. Come by your local's Daly's Dash today to get your delicious Duval Sub. Daly's is the official convenience store sponsor of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Committed to the mission. At Navy Mutual, we're committed to providing high-quality life insurance to members of the military and their families. Because at Navy Mutual, our highest commitment is to you. Visit NavyMutual.org.
This 4th of July, Navy Mutual would like to salute Nolan Ryan as our hero in sports. Ryan is baseball's ultimate Iron Man, but also a Patriot. Served 1 year with the Army Reserves in 1967 before returning to baseball and pitching for the New York Mets.
Big Chief Tire is always looking for ways to better serve the Jacksonville community we call home. Lauren Brooks here. Starting Monday, June 16th, they are opening their 6th shop location in Mandarin, providing more Jacksonville residents with a locally owned auto repair business that they can trust. Visit the new shop on San Jose Boulevard today for all your vehicle needs, including brake repair, new tires, and more. Visit WeKeepJacksRollin.com or call 904-932-0950 to schedule an appointment today.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville, and Triumph has branched off from on-road to off-road. Give us the latest on what they've got.
They've got the 250 and the 450. Rick Carmichael designed these bikes himself, and they are bad to the bone.
So you're talking about a really cool effect from a bike off-road that Triumph had on-road forever.
It is, and it's out there winning races, and it is fun to ride.
Check it out, Cycles of Jacksonville, their showroom on Atlantic near Regency, or online on their Facebook page.
Hey, it's Matt Hayes. The 4th is a few weeks away, and I know what you're thinking. I can't start a Wake 180 weight loss because I want to eat on the long 4th of July weekend. Well, guess what? You can eat hamburgers on a Wake 180 weight loss. You can eat chicken, steak, or pork, too. You can even eat lobster because you're eating real food and losing weight. More important, it's fast, easy, and safe. No chemical shots, no counting calories or points, or any other fad diet. I can't stress this enough. You eat real food every single day. You know what else you're doing while losing weight with a Wake 180? Eliminating pain, fitting into clothes you haven't worn in years, sleeping through the night and waking up refreshed and energized and happy. I lost 40 pounds in 9 weeks on a Wake 180, and Hacker lost more than 110. And you know what? You can lose whatever you want. It doesn't matter what your goal weight is. A Wake 180 weight loss will get you there quickly and safely. by eating real food every single day. Awake 180 Weight Loss is the clear path to success without disappointment. Give them a call, 844-346-1800, or go online, awake180weightloss.com.
Jumbo Shrimp Baseball is home at newly renovated ViStar Ballpark this week and weekend. Join us tonight as military and dependents get free tickets courtesy of Ascension St. Vincent's. And it's Coors Night Thirsty Thursday. Fireworks tomorrow and Saturday night with a Wizard Cloak giveaway courtesy of Maxwell House. Meet Bluey on Baptist Health Sunday Family Fun Day. Baseball all weekend. JackShrimp.com for tickets.
Want your son or daughter to enjoy sports year-round? Then log on to i9sports.com with summer and fall registration open right now, including girls volleyball at Duval Charter Bay Meadows, plus plenty of other spots and sports on the First Coast. i9sports.com. Enter 1010 for a discount.
David here with Royal Pest Services. It's back. Our summer Centricon Termite Special. New installs begin as low as $249. And if you have existing Centricon, but your renewal is through the roof, we can transfer you to Royal at no cost. Visit RoyalPestServices.com to schedule a free estimate.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks with you. And right now we have a family 4-pack of tickets for you to go see the Axemen game. Not Icemen, they're done. Axemen game take on the Copperheads this Saturday night at 7 p.m. at the North Rugby Fields at UNF. That's the turf rugby fields at UNF. We have a neighbor, Taylor, that plays for the Axemen.
Oh, really?
We've never seen him play.
That's so. I know. I haven't been either, and I actually really do want to go. I've never seen a rugby game in person. I've watched on TV, and I've had friends that have played rugby. One of my friends moved here from South Africa, and he played rugby for the South African team, and then he came here, and they obviously it's not as popular as it is here. So we did some fun rec leagues and stuff like that. But it looks like it's such a fun sport. So I'd love to see it live.
Yeah. All right. So caller number 2-641-1010. Caller number 2-641-1010, and you are headed to UNF to see the Axemen take on the Copperheads. And again, that's this Saturday night at 7 o'clock. I want to continue the GM conversation, and then in the next segment, I want to get RJ's expertise when it comes to last night's first round of the NBA draft. But I have a couple questions for you. One, I think, is a very difficult question to answer, which I love posing impossible questions. Would you take the combination of Brett Veach, the Chiefs GM, and Andy Reid, the Chiefs head coach, or Howie Roseman, the Eagles GM, and Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach? And I am asking this question for the next 3 years, not 10 years long term, because I don't know that Andy Reid will still be coaching in 10 years. But for the next 1 to 3 years, would you rather have the Chiefs personnel and head coach, personnel executive head coach, or the Eagles?
I think this is going to sound crazy, but I think I'd rather have Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni. I say that because Howie's had some of the best free agencies and drafts that any team has had. And I think the Chiefs, if they didn't have Patrick Mahomes.
But I know that's the hard part.
But that's one person. To
Right.
me, the Eagles have they have one of the best defenses from top to bottom in the NFL. Their roster, to me, them and the Ravens have the two best rosters when it comes to if you're talking about a complete roster.
Sure.
And I do think Jalen Hurts is still a good quarterback. He's obviously not Patrick Mahomes, but he's proven that in clutch moments he can be that. When he has to throw the ball, he can throw the ball, and that was such a question with Lamar forever too. And you saw Lamar's arm develop, and you're seeing that with Jalen Hurts too, because they realize we can't just have you sprint all over the field and win games that way. We're going to have to start to develop that side of your game, and we've seen that happen. The more hesitation for me, I would in a heartbeat probably take the Howie when it comes to the draft and the free agency over the Chiefs organization.
Mm-hmm.
I would choose Andy Reid over Nick Sirianni, probably. But if I was having to say these two, because we're talking about Sirianni, who last year, very early in the season, we were talking about, is he even going to make it? Because him and Jalen Hurts aren't getting along. And what does this look like? You know, they have all of this roster, that it is what it is. And you had this historic defensive season with 70 sacks, and then all of a sudden it kind of plummets. And then what happens is they get right back on track and they don't stop. And that's the most important. That's one of the things that's really shined with me for the Eagles. Everyone kind of mocks them. It's like, how many defensive linemen are you going to draft? draft. Who cares? Like, they don't have to worry whatsoever. And when they do have these big contracts coming up with some of these guys, if it doesn't work and they can't agree, then they have the next guy already lined up. They have one of the best offensive lines. When Jason Kelce leaves, everyone thought everything was going to fall apart. It didn't. They just were able to just refurbish that. And that's really hard to do in the trenches. And they've been able to do it consistently. I would choose that every day. I would choose that consistency and having a roster that I feel like if the quarterback wasn't elite, you'd still be able to win. And that's how I feel the Eagles have built their organization.
And I can understand that argument. The Eagles in the 2017 draft, so Patrick Mahomes drafted 10th overall. The Chiefs moved up to get him at 10, and people at the time thought that was a little crazy because they did already have a number 1 overall pick in Alex Smith as the quarterback on their roster. But certainly you have to give credit to Brett Veach for realizing the long-term future was going to be better with Patrick Mahomes. The Eagles in that 2017 draft picked 14th. They picked Derek Barnett, who has 29 total sacks in his career.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that, of course, yes, the Eagles eventually won that year's Super Bowl in 2017. They had Nick Foles. They beat the Patriots. Everyone around here knows that because the Jaguars came very close to being in that Super Bowl. But for the long-term sustained success of the Eagles, how much better would they be if instead of getting Nick Foles in free agency, going back to Nick Foles, because of course he was drafted there, going back to Nick Foles, if they had drafted Patrick Mahomes? And it's only one position. So to your point, the overall roster is better. The Eagles roster is better. But if the Eagles had drafted Patrick Mahomes, how many more Super Bowls in addition to that great roster building that they have, would they have?
Yeah, I mean, probably a lot, especially because they're in the NFC. And who
at least
even
they've
knows
had
what the
trips to Super Bowl.
FC? Yeah. And I think that to that point, there's always going to be those storylines of the Patrick Mahomes story of the quarterbacks that go a little bit later than, and he didn't, I mean, he was what, 10th or 11th? 10th, yeah. So it's not even like he was like plummeting in this draft. Like he was still one of the top 10, top 15 top 10, 15 picks in that draft. And it was going to be that, but there was a lot of hesitation for a lot of teams. There was a lot of teams that needed quarterbacks that year. Obviously the Bears traded up for Mitchell Trubisky that year.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
So, but Mitchell Trubisky was talked about as being the second, third best quarterback. I was more shocked they didn't. Deshaun Watson was the one that everybody was talking about.
And he went 12th overall. I would have loved Deshaun Watson, obviously
now
issues.
That changes things.
Yeah,
but that was the one that to me was more of a shock. People talk so much about Patrick Mahomes because of what's happened, but Deshaun Watson was the one that honestly slid more than people expected him to slide. It's so hard when it comes to evaluating drafts in that sense because the quarterback position's like very difficult to figure out. And if you go back and you look at the quarterbacks drafted in the first round in the last 10 years, you can name several that are the ones that we're talking about, but you can also name several that we are not even in the league anymore or that are second, third string quarterbacks. It's not a science and it's a lot of figuring out. So credit to the Chiefs for seeing something in that and their scouting and their scouts being like, no, there's something in this guy that we can work. And I do think that he also went to one of the best places he could have possibly went to because you went to Andy Reid, who is obviously one of the best coaches in the NFL. He didn't have to play right away.
Used to coach the Eagles, which is so ironic.
Yeah, it is funny. He didn't have to play right away. He got to sit behind another quarterback that has had success in the NFL that was willing to teach and mold and help him develop and learn. They already had a roster that was pretty good. You had a guy named Tyreek Hill that was there to help you out a little bit offensively, and you had Travis Kelce. So he was put in probably the best possible spot. And that's why I always say if the Bears had drafted him that year, it would not be the Patrick Mahomes we're talking about now. I truly don't think so because
he would have had to start right away.
He would have been thrown out there right away.
Yeah.
He would have had a coach who didn't know how to play call, and that was fired a couple of seasons later. It was one of the worst offensive rosters in the NFL. It was one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes was given the grand opportunity to be able to develop, and I'm not saying it's not his talent that has also helped that because obviously some of the things he could do, we know. He's incredible when it comes to being athletic and those sidearm throws and being what he does on the run, the way his mind works when he's on the run. And so but a lot of that I do think is how he's been able to develop. And the opposite end for me is I think the Eagles have, not saying that Jalen Hurts hasn't been put in a really good position because obviously he's had weapons, an offensive line and a defense, but I do think the the expectations for Jalen Hurts were maybe a little different than what it was for Patrick Mahomes. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, he can only run. He can't throw. And now that the Eagles have figured out ways to make the offense completely functional around him and honestly kind of scary in moments. And so.
But you also kind of argued for the Chiefs in that too, because like you said, he went to a guy that could work with him in development in Andy Reid.
Yeah.
So you would love to have Andy Reid.
And that's what I said. I'd pick Reid over Sirianni, but I'd pick the organization, the higher up of Philly over the Chiefs personally. And I think even the move since, I think the Chiefs roster is like, okay. I mean, you look at it and you have Travis Kelce, yes, who's kind of like on that tail end, but they get rid of their best wide receiver in Tyreek Hill. And yeah, they've still been able to figure things out, but it's like their secondary's good and then Chris Jones, and they have these pieces, but I also feel like they've made really weird moves on the offensive line and things that people constantly scratch their head about. They getting rid of your best wide receiver, people constantly scratch their head about. And so I do think that they find ways to like make themselves continue to look good because obviously the organization is functional enough to be able to keep winning Super Bowls and keep their teams in it. But I'm so curious that if you pluck Patrick Mahomes out of that, how drastically does it fall? And I don't know how drastically it falls just plucking Jalen Hurts out.
I can understand that. So if it's a package deal, which one are you taking?
Yeah, I think I'm taking Philly.
You're still taking the Eagles.
Yeah.
Okay. As the package deal, I'm taking the Chiefs because of what I think. I think Andy Reid is the best play caller in the NFL. People want to talk about Sean McVay, and I think he's great. And people want to talk about Kevin O'Connell, and I think he's great. I think Andy Reid trumps them. And I always love reading, he doesn't do it anymore because he's retired, but Peter King would always go into the head coach's office post-Super Bowl and chat with him about how it all came about, right? Especially those critical plays. And Andy Reid, to me, just has that brilliant mind. He looks so silly in the commercials that I think some people who aren't
so silly all the time.
Well, also true.
I remember during COVID, he had his like full mask on. It was just fogging up. You couldn't even see.
Yeah, with his glasses. I think everybody had issues with
that out.
Those masks back then. But yeah, I think people who don't follow the NFL maybe as close as we do, they probably don't realize just how brilliant of a person that he is. And because, yes, he's older, I think people nowadays talk so much about these young offensive minds and the innovation and everything. And it's like, just because he's older doesn't mean he's any less innovative. Yeah. He is a really smart play caller.
Yeah, I love Andy Reid. I would probably put him as my favorite coach in the NFL, honestly. But I think that to me, having that functional organization who year after year just has hits on every single draft, hits on every single free agent, is able to lock people in when they need to lock people in. This offseason, what they do, they went and made sure that Saquon Barkley stayed. They just do things like that every single season, and I don't think the Chiefs don't have that mindset almost. The Chiefs more so we have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, so we can kind of do whatever we want, and we get lucky in other situations. And to me, if you're building something, we're talking about the future here, I feel like the Phillies team is way more stable for the next 10 years than the Chiefs are, outside of Patrick Mahomes, obviously.
And do we get a Chiefs-Eagles rematch in the Super Bowl? Would be interesting. Maybe, because the game actually was terrible. So I think
Can we get another one?
Yeah, can we get that one part 2? All right, when we come back, Taylor has a tangent. We will also get it to the NBA. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Duval and defense.
The ball is out. The ball is out.
Things in Jacksonville.
Another sack for this Jacksonville defense.
Things on 1010XL.
Are you embarrassed by your ugly, cracked concrete driveway? Stop by Stone Core on Phillips Highway for all your outdoor living needs. Let them show you how a durable paver driveway can enhance your home. Visit stonecore.co. We do outdoors better.
Ah, the joys of home ownership. Until the plumbing backs up, the AC goes out, or your septic system decides to act up. The good news? You don't have to call 3 different companies when things go wrong. Just call my friends at Duck Duck Rooter, your one-stop shop for plumbing, septic, and air conditioning, all under one roof. Whether it's a leak, a clog, or your system just won't cool, they have you covered. Give them a ring at 904-862-6769 or visit duckduckrooter.com. Duck Duck Rooter, plumbing, septic, and air conditioning. One call does it all.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. For lost or broken keys or nearly any make and model of vehicle, call 722-1111 for Instant Keys locksmith service.
Man, I can't wait for Saturday. I'm going to the Jacksonville Axemen Rugby League game. They're playing the Southwest Florida Copperheads, and it's going to be good.
Rugby league is crazy. No pads or helmets? No, that's a real contact sport. Count me in. Join the ratified credit union Jacksonville Axemen as they take on the Copperheads at the UNF Turf Field this Saturday at 7. Tickets start at $10 and kids under 12 are free at jacksaxe.com.
Hi, folks. Jason Parker here with Performance Painting. Ever wonder what to do with leftover paint that you don't want? Here's a few options. Paint can be placed in the regular trash if it's dry. Simply stir in kitty litter to a thick consistency. Then wait a few days with the lid off till it dries. Also, if the paint is good, there's many charities or churches that would love to have it. If you'd like more tips or have a project, we'd love to help. Go to performance-painting.com. Performance Painting. Repair, protect, preserve.
Performance Painting.
Born in Jacksonville, raised on Southern Rock, and coming home to the Florida Theater, it's Molly Hatchet. Saturday, June 28th. Get your fill of Southern Rock fury. Grab your seat at floridatheater.com. It's a hometown homecoming with Molly Hatchet.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On June 26, 1996, the Philadelphia 76ers selected Georgetown guard Allen Iverson with the number 1 pick in the NBA draft.
Brackish Vodka, the spirit of the sportsman and proud partner of the Jaguars, wants to make your flight in and out of Jax a fun one. Stop by Vino Volo in the airport and enjoy 2 signature brackish cocktails. Vino Volo has amazing food and cocktails before your flight. Brackish Vodka is the first clean craft vodka and made right here in Jacksonville, Florida. Brackish Vodka for whatever your sport is. If your sport is flying, your vodka is Brackish, proud partner of the Jaguars.
Lucas Tree Service is a certified arborist and a local family-owned business with over 45 years of experience. They specialize in tree removal, trimming, and stump grinding for both residential and commercial properties. Get prepared for storm season and receive top-notch customer service from Lucas Tree Service, 904-241-3533. Online at lucastreeservice.com.
These days, guys who go engagement ring shopping have a really good idea of what she wants.
I was looking for something very specific. My wife shared some notes with me with what she was looking for.
Meet Jacksonville's Richard Skinner.
I did some research online. I called around the city. I shopped at other stores.
Richard found the best deal, the best ring, the best customer service at locally owned Beard's Diamonds.
We did shop around that stone and that particular setup with different jewelers, and Beard's was able to come in significantly lower. It was a no-brainer.
But way more than the price, it was truly a beautiful ring in a custom setting with a hand-picked, large, dazzling emerald-cut diamond. Literally breathtaking.
Oh, yeah. When she saw it, she couldn't talk for about 30 minutes. Her eyes got all watery and her face got red, and almost had a panic attack.
So don't make her settle for a chain store ring. Get something special that reflects her unique style, taste, and personality at Beard's Diamonds.
It's a one-of-a-kind piece.
Beard's Diamonds, Jacksonville's only locally owned direct diamond importer.
I'm the hero.
At the St. John Town Center.
Frank Franzi here for Coyle Fencing. Jacksonville's full of memorable sports moments. Remember Tiger Woods' 60-foot putt on the iconic 17th? Gary Coate called it better than most. Better than most. Well, Coyle Fencing is better than most. They're better than all. Coyle has been that for nearly 100 years. So if you're in the market for a new fence, I recommend calling Coyle & Sons today. That's at 904-356-4821 or visit CoyleJacks.com. That's COYLE Jacks.com.
Tucker Equipment Rental in Neptune Beach. You just don't rent quality machines, you rent quality customer service. Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Dave. Tucker Equipment Rental has been supplying Jacksonville with equipment and event rental for over 50 years.
From commercial and homeowner projects, we've got what you need. Lifts, dirt equipment, and landscape equipment.
And don't forget about event rentals. From festivals to weddings to backyard barbecues.
Local, knowledgeable, and always ready to help.
Tucker Equipment Rentals.
You need it, we've got it, come see us.
1010XL is presented by Farrah & Farrah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
We go together, better than birds of a feather, you and me. We change the weather.
Fun fact, both Taylor and I dislike birds. We're both actually afraid of birds. Since the song said Birds of a Feather, I just figured I'd add that for your Thursday afternoon.
I started watching this other show last night. This is that time of year where I start like a couple series, knock those out during summer when not much else is going on, if there's not Cubs on. But it's this, I forget what it's called.
Did the Cubs have a day game or were they off?
So they have a day game today. They won last night, but they won 8-0, and it was like they were just dominating last night. So around like the 6th inning, I was like, I think I could watch something else. Thank goodness it didn't go reverse because I would have been very upset with myself. But I can't remember. Oh, Buccaneers is what it's called. And it's so kind of like, if you've heard of that show Bridgerton, it's based back in like that era of time, and it's an interesting show. But in that show, they obviously throw these big balls. Like anytime the women get engaged and they're going to get married, they throw these big balls and have everybody like in the town come over. And their big thing back then, and this is on all those shows that I watch or any like documentary in that era, which I'm like fascinated with that era. But they always have birds and oh, this person has doves, and then that person tries to like outshine them, and they'll get like peacocks, and I'm like, why? I don't want any of that in my house. I don't want it.
For our gala, we will be having the penguins come.
Yeah,
no.
I actually like penguins, so it's funny because I'm like, it's technically a bird. I wonder how I would feel if it like waddled up to me. If I would
think
be
you'd
like,
be okay. I think we don't like the beaks and the feather combo.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
I also saw the movie Birds very
me
young.
Too.
Yeah.
I watched it in 3rd grade.
I think I saw it the same year. And terrible, well, different years for us, but same grade. But yeah, I'm just terrified. And then throughout the years, I've had family members or friends like know that I'm terrified. So they'll on purpose throw food out nearby. So a bird will have to come. Yeah. Just makes me so mad.
Hate it.
All right, let's get it right now to Taylor Dahl's Tangent.
Now, Taylor's Tangent, served up by Chick-fil-A on 1010XL.
First off, shout out to Chick-fil-A if you missed it in the beginning. They have a new creamy barbecue sandwich, which only Jacksonville has right now. We are kind of, I guess, that test area. And so it's only here for 6 weeks, only in Jacksonville, but it's delicious. It has a creamy barbecue coleslaw, so that crunchy, tangy kind of, if you like that crunch on your sandwich, I personally do. It also has sweet heat pickles on it, delicious. And then their peach milkshake also is their summertime milkshake, which is also delicious. I'm personally not the biggest milkshake fan, but every milkshake I've gotten from Chick-fil-A, I end up loving. This one's delicious. Their mint chocolate one's delicious. We were talking to Eric Gillis's daughter. He's from Chick-fil-A, and she was saying she loves the chocolate one with Oreo in it. So if that's more of your vibe, perfect for you. But yeah, thanks to Chick-fil-A for lunch today. But yeah, so actually this kind of ties into our last segment, which is kind of funny because an article was written about the biggest winners and losers. This was on The Athletic of this offseason. And so number one, the few things they mentioned is some of the unresolved things still happening, which I don't know if we've even really talked about, which are a lot of big stories. Michael Parsons, TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson, Terry McLaurin, and James Cook are all still have not came up with their contract agreements for that long-term contract the extensions for them for each of those teams.
Those are all of them probably except James Cook.
Yeah, and that's why I don't even know if I realized James Cook was having those conversations, but I do think, those are all very important pieces of each of those teams, so we'll see how those all end up shaking out. But so that's one of the things is, hey, keep this in mind that some of these teams have these things going on. Not that it's massively affecting most of it, because most of the teams that they're on, you kind of know what those teams are. But their biggest winner of this offseason was the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's why I was saying it kind of ties into what we were saying, talking about last segment. But they said the reigning Super Bowl champions made a series of moves to reward and keep their core intact. They gave Saquon Barkley an extension and also took care of center Cam Jurgens and inside linebacker Zach Bond. Howie Roseman also added important contributors like Azeez Ojulari. But the biggest win came at the league meetings when the opponents did not vote against the tush push. So now you can expect Jalen Hurts to extend the streak of double-digit touchdown runs and 50-plus first down carries for his 5th straight season, which is wild.
Yeah, I wonder if one day they'll ban the tush push, but for the here and now, I think they wanted to collect more information.
Yeah, I don't know if they really can unless someone has a serious, massive injury in that moment.
Because Chris Jones ended up with a neck injury in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
trying to defend the tush push.
I think that because that's their main thing is like safety, safety, safety. But if in 5 years you've had one guy get injured massively injured on that play, I don't know how validating that argument is. But yeah, so that was just like a funny nugget at the end of the Philadelphia Eagles. But going back to this organization every single offseason does this. And so they were the biggest winner for this offseason. Number 2, they had the Minnesota Vikings, which I think this is such an interesting thing to see how this is going to shake out. And so on their reasoning, they put the Vikings invested heavily in the trenches and free agency, signing defensive tackles Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, and offensive lineman Ryan Kelly, Will Freeze. And so that was what they need. They said, hey, our trenches had some issues. Let's figure these two out. They spent some money on it, heavily spent some money on that, but they seem like they're going to be much better. The interesting thing for me, too, that I would put in the win category for the Vikings is that you have the Packers, who, by the way, only won one NFC North game last year, and that was because they tipped a field goal at the end of that Bears game and ended up winning that. So Vikings are looking at that team as very beatable because they've beat them a lot the last few years. And they're looking at the Bears, Caleb Williams, who knows what's going to happen in year 2. There's a lot of you have a new head coach. What is that going to look like with Ben Johnson? And then you have the Lions, who lost both of their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator. And everyone kind of has question marks about how well that's going to look now without those guys who were such massive pieces of the success the last couple years.
So the Vikings win because other teams lose.
Yeah. And I honestly
but
feel
they also
like
lost their
this
quarterback.
is their prime window. I feel like they must be looking at it like that. Like, if we want to win, this is the perfect time to win. Packers are kind of in the most mediocre state they've been at in a long time, and they don't really have a wide receiver one. We'll see if Matthew Golden ends up being that. Jordan Love has a lot of ups and downs, and there's moments the Vikings they're the blitz heavy team, so they can take advantage of Jordan Love big time. And then, so I do think they may be looking at it, but the question mark is JJ McCarthy. And
right.
So it is interesting that a lot of people are very high on McCarthy because they're on almost every list in that world. So other people also, we will see how quick that goes. But their other winners, they had the New England Patriots. That one was a little interesting. Their main reasoning was Vrabel and what Vrabel can bring back to that organization. Some of the reasonings behind it were interesting because I just don't, like Stephon Diggs and Matt Hollins, I don't know if that's like, they really improved their offense because they got Diggs and Hollins.
Diggs right now.
I honestly wouldn't either, and I was big on Diggs last year. I loved that signing last year, but after the way that it looked, and it's an injury, and you don't really know what level he's going to be on, it's interesting. So that one was a little strange, but I guess they're just that Vrabel move they think is going to make a lot of difference, and they're probably also high on Drake May. But then they also have the Bears in this. It's obvious they're talking about Ben Johnson, and they're talking about some of the other issues around that division, who's one of the better divisions, but some of the challenges that could come, but also the open window that's possibly there. And their last one was the Raiders. We've talked about that a lot. When it comes to the quarterback situation, what does that look like with Geno? But, I mean, you get Ashton Genty, and you already have Brock Bowers. Michael Mayer's coming back, and he's healthy. You already have a defense and guys like a Max Crosby who can come out there and help. Tom Brady being a part of this organization, I think they're looking at as he's going to be able to help in some form and way, even if it's developing a quarterback or helping in that sense. And then Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's been a good NFL head coach, and I know that things probably didn't end the way that everyone saw it ending in Seattle for them, but I do think that he's had this history, even being a defensive coach, has a history of really bringing out the best of quarterbacks. So we will see how that looks in the Raiders. But then the losers, this one was what is very interesting. Some of them are obvious to me. Some of them we will see. The 49ers was their biggest loser of this offseason. And they said that, you give Brock Purdy a handsome 5-year, $265 million contract, but then you let everybody go pretty much. Deebo Samuel's gone. Javon Hargrave's gone. Travarius Ward's gone. Dre Greenlaw's gone. Hufanga's gone. Jalen Moore's gone. The list continues of all the pieces that they've lost. So they're like, hey, here's our game manager quarterback, which I'm not trying to take that as an insult, but one that the game managers do need pieces around them. And then they part ways with all of the things that have helped that team be successful the last few years. So I guess that's kind of their point in this. But they try. I mean, they're going through. They got Mikael Williams, obviously, and Nick Martin in the draft. And so we will see what that looks like. But this is a big year for Brock Purdy. And is it Brock Purdy? Like, are you worth that money? And this year's going to show that, I think, for a lot of people. Some of the other Saints, I think most people would understand why the Saints were losers in this offseason. They don't really have a quarterback, or Maybe they do. Who knows? Miami Dolphins were the next loser in this, and they said Tua Tagovailoa missed 4 games in the first half of the season while recovering from another concussion. This offseason, the Dolphins lost starting left tackle Teron Armstead to retirement and safety Javon Holland to the Giants via free agency. Meanwhile, star cornerback Jalen Ramsey, he wants to leave. McDaniel needs a strong rebound from his team from last season, or this is just going to spiral out of control. I agree with that. I think they're on that brisk of this. Either you save things right now or it's going to look really bad. And then they have the Lions as another one, obviously losing both their coordinators. We'll see how big that is. We'll see how much Dan Campbell factored into a lot of these wins and losses rather than the DC and the OC. And then the Steelers were another one, and that made me laugh so bad because they started with Aaron Rodgers. Like, what is your point of this is pretty much what they're saying.
Yeah, I think this offseason, everyone's had the Patriots, everyone's had the Bears, and then it's split along the other lines. I think some people would say the 49ers had a great offseason because they locked their quarterback in for long term. Some people thought it was too high of a deal for him, too much money for Brock Purdy, but the going rate for quarterbacks these days is very expensive, and he didn't get the highest paid, which most of the time nowadays when you see a new contract extension, they're going to be the highest paid guys in the league. That's just what happens. And so he wasn't quite that, but certainly, a lot of money put into him. If he plays well, then that's the smartest move they could have made is keeping him long term. You do not want to have to try and find a quarterback.
Definitely.
Go back to the Steelers and that conversation that we just had as far as, what you said about they had Mason Rudolph. That was their best option. Yeah. And so they don't lose enough. They don't lose enough games to be picking at the top of the draft to then get a really good quarterback. So therefore, they had to go out and sign a free agent that didn't want to join the team until June.
Yeah.
So that's
I'll do it now.
Right. That should be a whole fascinating thing to watch. But yeah, the Jaguars, if the Jaguars win, if they're above 500 this year, then everyone's going to look back and say, well, the Jaguars obviously should have been in the winners of this offseason category. They went from not having Tony Boselli within the organization to him becoming the executive vice president. You had Trent Baalke, now you have James Gladstone. You had Doug Peterson, who most people think was checked out, to now Liam Cohen. Yeah. You added Travis Hunter. Like, the list goes on, obviously. You go through all the draft picks. And again, if they're above 500, the Jaguars should have led a lot of these lists. And if the Bears are successful, then I think
those two teams.
Yeah, because of all the changes that they made. Not a new GM by any means, but certainly a new head coach. All right, I lied. We don't have time to get to the NBA draft yet. We are going to talk some college football on the other side with Preston Guy, the staff writer for LSU football at TigerBait.com. And then I promise NBA draft and we have Chick-fil-A to give away.
I do, yes. We have a lunch for Chick-fil-A. I've been talking about it today. So if you give us a call at 641-1010, you can get a free lunch to Chick-fil-A. Let's say caller number 3.
I think that's a beautiful caller number, 904-641-1010, caller number 3. You get the same Chick-fil-A that we got today. We will be back with some college football talk on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
It's strange. The code is somehow different.
LX1010.
Encrypted? Maybe.
Is that good for us or bad for us?
1010XL.
Hey everybody, Jennifer Marion with Randy Marion Cadillac in Jacksonville here to say hello, and we'd sure like to have your business.
You know what? They're going to love the king of price.
My dad believes in making great deals and having a great selection in stock.
Cadillac XT4s, XT5s, and XT6s, and Escalades.
The all-electric Cadillac Lyriq.
CT4s and CT5s.
Cadillac luxury and selection is just waiting for you.
At Randy Marion Cadillac, Southside Boulevard, Jacksonville.
And don't forget, tell them Jennifer sent ya.
Mia here for Closets by Design. You know how much I love my brand new bedroom closet, so why not finally create that custom garage workspace you've been thinking about? It's not just bedroom closets, folks. Tool storage, workbenches, flooring, a place for everything to go. Closets by Design creates custom solutions for every lifestyle and budget, and that includes all you guys, too. Call to schedule your free in-home consultation and receive 40% off plus an additional 15% off. Visit closetsbydesign.com.
Committed to the mission. At Navy Mutual, we're committed to providing high-quality life insurance to members of the military and their families. Because at Navy Mutual, our highest commitment is to you. Visit NavyMutual.org.
This 4th of July, Navy Mutual would like to salute Ted Williams as our hero in sports. A flight instructor during World War II, Williams flew 39 combat missions in the Korean War and still made 19 All-Star Game appearances. What a legend.
June is Men's Health Month. Be proactive towards your prostate, ED, low T, even kidney stones with Ackerman Urology. offices in Mandarin, Middleburg, the Beaches, and World Golf Village. Trust the men's health experts at AckermanUrology.com.
Are you ready to play this summer? At the First Coast YMCA, we're committed to being your home for health and wellness and a place for friendly competition with team sports for adults and for kids. Basketball, volleyball, pickleball, flag football, soccer. The Y has something for everyone at any age. Discover all the benefits of YMCA membership and find your fun this summer at the Y. Registration for team sports and summer camps is open now. Visit fcymca.org.
Right now, they're on their way to disrupt your life, make you uncomfortable, and rob you. Don't bother calling the police. They can't help. That's right. Summer heat and humidity are about to attack North Florida again. You know what to do. Call Mike Merritt. Mike Merritt's Heating and Air has a license to chill. When heat and humidity are attacking you, Mike Merritt provides a comfortable chill at a bargain price. Mike has been keeping North Florida comfortable for 30 years. Mike Merritt technicians are never paid commissions, meaning you'll never be pressured to buy something you don't need. And Mike Merritt knows cooling issues can arise anytime. They don't just happen during business hours. So Mike Merritt never charges overtime fees. When you need us, we're here for you. Remember, in the fight against heat and humidity, Mike Merritt has a license to chill. Visit merrittair.com. Florida license number CACO 50384.
Cannonball!
Honey, someone's in our pool.
Oh, refreshing.
John, what are you doing?
Oh, hey, Dave. Seeing as how me and the guys at Clearwater Irrigation reinstalled your sprinklers after the pool contractor ripped it out, I thought you wouldn't mind if I took a quick dip.
But in a Jaguar print Speedo?
Yeah, Dave. My bad.
Clearwater Irrigation. We can't sing a lick, but we sure are good at sprinklers.
And drainage, too.
Have you got concrete or asphalt rubble piling up? Arcosa Crushed Concrete will pay you for it and recycle it. They're just minutes from Everbank Stadium on Talleyrand. Call Arcosa Crushed Concrete and get paid for what you don't need. ArcosaCrushedConcrete.com.
Hey, Hicken here for my friends at Zero Res. They want to help you clean your home or business. Big summer savings with 3 rooms clean starting at $129 and 20% off your air duct cleaning. Call them 904-287-5727 and ask for the 1010XL special.
The flagship station of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Collisions happen on every play in football. Collisions also happen every day on the road. If you need auto body repair, from a $30 job to a $30,000 job, trust San Jose Collision in Mandarin.
Hi, I'm Mac with Baker Glass. If you've got fogged up windows, let me help. We'll replace them with clear, insulated units that brighten up your home. People say we're fast, friendly, and reliable. Just check out our Google reviews. Call me today. Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
If someone you love needs a pick-me-up, then it's time to get serious about it and send them a Kuhn floral arrangement. RJ here with 1010XL, and you'll be assured of a quality delivery. That's for sure. Log on and order online at kuhnflowers.com.
When it comes to towing products, your safety is the priority at Cannons of Jacksonville. Cannons has decades of experience to ensure your towing setup is installed with precision and reliability. Visit cannonsofjacks.com, your trusted partner for a smoother tow.
This is your Southeast Orthopedic Specialist local sports update. I'm RJ Saunders for 1010XL. This update brought to you by Awaken 180. The Jacksonville Axemen return home to UNF this Saturday for the second conference home game of the season. The Axemen defeated the Copperheads in round 1 of the season and are looking to chop out the competition for good by winning at home as well. The showdown will take place this Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Jace Richardson is heading to the Orlando Magic as they selected the guard with the number 25 pick in the NBA draft. He averaged 12 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists in 25 minutes of action under Tom Izzo, making a team-leading 41% of his three-point attempts and shooting just under 50% overall. Right now, 90 degrees at 12:58. Time and temp. Brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farrah & Farrah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Checkmate Coatings phone line. Hello. Your floor's missing piece.
All right, we are going to continue looking around college football. We're talking to several schools this week and next week just to kind of get an idea of what to expect, where their quarterback, if there's a competition, the ones that are set, how they're looking, things like that. So today we're continuing on, and we are joined now by Preston Guy. He's the staff writer covering LSU football for TigerBait.com. So Preston, thanks for hopping on with us.
Hey, Taylor, thanks for having me.
Of course. Again, we appreciate your time. I know there's a lot of interesting storylines going around college football and what the season could look like for a lot of the bigger, especially SEC schools. There's a lot of question marks and TBDs going on. But LSU, I think, I want to start with the quarterback conversation, because LSU is probably one of the ones that when you look at any of the QB rankings for this season, Garrett Nussmeier sits atop the majority of those. And that I feel like most people are most confident in him than most of the other quarterbacks in college football right now. So let's talk about that a little bit. Year 5, he hit 4,000 yards last year, and now heading into year 5, we're kind of where there's expectations of what he can look like, and can he live up to those? So thoughts on that, what this offseason's look like for him?
Yeah, so all eyes on Garrett Nussmeier this year. Obviously, he's going to be a huge key to LSU having a big season, and there's, monumental pressure on Brian Kelly to make the playoffs this year, and he's going to have to do it on the heels of this 4,000-yard passer. The big question with Nussmeier is, I don't think anybody would debate he was pretty good last year, but can he make that step from pretty good to great? And that's going to involve improving his deep ball, albeit his receiving core last year had a lot of injuries and, frankly, was inconsistent a lot of times last year. So that should help with that. And can he avoid the reckless turnovers? He had 12 interceptions a year ago, including 3 on the road at Texas A&M, which undoubtedly cost them the game there. So, he's had so many great moments. He just needs to be more consistent with that to take that next step forward.
Preston, I have to be honest, Taylor is a huge Notre Dame fan. She did not like Brian Kelly. So certainly she's rooting against him in that regard. I'm a Florida girl, and Jack Pyburn left my Gators high and dry to head to the LSU Tigers. Yeah. But also Patrick Payton from FSU joined. Those are the 2 defensive ends now, joined LSU. So let's talk about those guys and what do you think that pass rush will look like?
Yeah, well, Jakeem Jackson from Florida as well is also coming here. So, look, here's the deal. LSU's edge room is nasty. They go about 6 deep with guys that I would trust to go in there and play good SEC ball. I think that either that or wide receiver is going to be the best unit on this team. In spring ball, they were unblockable. And they go really deep. It's not just Patrick Payton and Jack Pyburn, who is, of course, adjusting to a new role. That is Jack Pyburn. He was a Jack linebacker for Florida, but if you watch his film, you can see why he'd be able to make the transition. He's a physical player. I love Jack Pyburn, and I love Patrick Payton, but they've got guys like Gabriel Relaford out there as well, returning guy who looked really good. Of course, the troubling part of watching spring ball for your team is, well, one guy played well, but it wasn't because the other guy's bad or this guy's good. So, of course, all the concerns then go to LSU's offensive line, which is the biggest question mark. They lose 4 starters. They brought in a bunch of guys in the transfer portal, but none of those guys in the transfer portal and none of the 4 5-star freshmen they brought in are quite cracking the starting lineup yet. Is that they're holding out because they didn't want to show their cards in spring? Based on some conversations, I think that's true. But anyways, edge rushers look really good for LSU, to answer your question.
Yeah, it's funny, Preston, because we've been having the same conversation when it has come to the Jaguars OTAs of, okay, is the corner really good or is the wide receiver struggling? And that's the hard part about this time of year. But continuing on with that defense, because obviously that has been the major issue in LSU. LSU has been able to have this high-powered offense the last few years where you see a lot of different receivers succeeding. You've seen now too with Gus Nussmeier and Jaden Daniels succeeding. But it just feels like that the defense as a whole has kind of held back a little bit, and now it does look like that the pass rushers have improved. The other question then is the secondary, and I know there was a lot of additions there this offseason too. So the thoughts in kind of bringing all of that together and the importance of that for Brian Kelly to make this LSU team kind of a full product.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 years of defense for Brian Kelly have been a roller coaster. You know, their first year, they hit the portal really hard, and they put together a serviceable unit. You know, it was not a world beater, but it was certainly serviceable. They lost, and, of course, the problem with the portal is it's a lot of one-and-done type guys. You know, they're in and out. Of course, they didn't go to the portal quite as hard, or I guess they went to the portal for a few guys, but there's a lot of swings and misses. The Greg Brooks injury, of course, with him, you know, getting a tumor, which is just devastating to this day. You know, that defense was historically awful in 2023. It was one of the worst in SEC history, and either the worst or right behind the COVID year defense for LSU as the worst defense ever. And that, of course, I believe cost LSU a national title last year, because what Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas, and Malik Neighbors were all doing last year was national title worthy. It was one of the best offenses in SEC history. Unfortunately, when you pair it with one of the worst defenses in SEC history, you get a mundane 9-3 season. So they fired all the defensive staff, and last year they came back, and it was a defense that they invested in their coaching staff, but they didn't invest in the portal. It was a lot of the same players from that atrocious defense, and they started playing a little bit better because the coaching was a little bit better last year. Unfortunately, you could just tell the talent just wasn't there on that defense, which is an unusual statement for LSU. But in this portal era and through a recent coaching change 3 years before, it just kind of was up and down, you know. This year they've invested heavily in the portal. In fact, their NIL collective funds are just under triple the dollars it was a year ago. So that's how you see these guys coming in. Like we talked about, Jakeem Jackson. You also got Mansour Delane, a cornerback from Virginia Tech. I mean, just Halsey from Houston. Lots of good players in this defensive backfield. We haven't quite gotten to see them all on the field at the same time. A few of them were late additions, but I think there's about, in the entire secondary, there's about a dozen players where if I saw that guy and he turned out to have an all-SEC type season, I could understand why. The writing was on the wall for that. So there's certainly some potential in this defensive backfield. I don't think any of it is quite panned out quite yet, at least not at LSU. You do have two very accomplished all-conference type players in Mansour Delane and A.J. Halsey.
And certainly we'll see with the return of Harold Perkins Jr. what that looks like after the ACL. All right, Preston, we can't have you on since you mentioned his name and not ask you about Brian Thomas Jr., of course. Terrific rookie season for the Jaguars last year. How early in his college career did you know he was going to be something special?
Man, he had flashes. You know, I always talk about young receivers and their flashes at LSU. At this point, I kind of am becoming a bit of a pro at identifying guys who are about to be a first-round pick because, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Chase Jefferson, all these guys, when they're young, you don't necessarily – they're not putting up a 1,000-yard season when they're 18 years old, right? But you start to see some of the plays they make, like, oh, that was a very impressive athletic toe drag there on the sideline. Oh, this guy's moving pretty fast, and every single one of them, all six of these guys that have been NFL superstars in the last 15 years, okay, they all had that. And Brian Thomas had those flashes, and he was having those flashes alongside Malik Neighbors, and you're like, man, these guys put it together. Brian Thomas was just a big-bodied guy, and you saw him. He's got the speed and he's got the height. It was just he needed to polish up a little bit and work his way up the depth chart. So you could see the flashes early with him. And, I guess that was part of the upsetting part looking at LSU's receiving corps struggles last year is you didn't see any of these young guys with those flashes of, well, it's not quite there yet, but you could see why next year, if this guy really worked on it, he'd be there. You didn't really see much of that. Maybe Aaron Anderson, okay, but you really don't see that guy last year outside of Aaron Anderson who might put together that next special season. So, Brian Thomas is the guy, man. He should be doing his thing for a very long time for the Jags. Hopefully they can keep him around and get Trevor Lawrence to take that step forward to be, I think he's been okay, but I think they need to get him being an elite quarterback.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels could give him some lessons.
No doubt.
So speaking of those wide receivers, though, because you mentioned you just didn't really see that this last year. Now they did add 3 transfers to that wide receiver room, and Nick Anderson, Berrien Brown, and Destin Hill. What are the expectations in those guys? I know there's not a whole lot you see in the spring, but was there any of those guys kind of stand out to you?
Oh, absolutely. Especially Berrien Brown just really is a good deep threat. LSU's got a lot of receivers and that you could see having 1,000-yard seasons. Now, not necessarily Destin Hill. I think he's more of a depth piece. But even talking about the returning guys, Xavier Thomas is a nice piece for bubble screens and kick returns, that kind of stuff. They have a guy named Chris Hilton who, in bowl games and practice, the legends, I should say meaningless bowl games, because that's all LSU's played in the last 3 years. In meaningless bowl games and practices, Chris Hilton will be a legend forever. Okay. However, injuries and inconsistencies during the regular season has just really hampered him. But this is his senior season. He's a huge deep ball threat. He's a guy where you could see him staying healthy and really locking in. That's the guy who might be a first-round pick for LSU, that guy. But you didn't see flashes out of him last year. Why? Well, he wasn't on the field. He was hurt until the bowl game, basically. And then once he got out there, I think he had 3 touchdowns in the bowl game. So lots of guys. Nick Anderson's a guy from Oklahoma. High expectations. Obviously, he was great as a freshman for Oklahoma, but he hasn't played football in 2 years now. So we're trying to see how he recovers from a pretty serious injury. I haven't even touched on guys like depth pieces like they have Jelani Watkins, who's actually one of the fastest players in America on the track field. Runs a 10:01 100-meter dash. I believe he's second nationally. So yeah, the talent is absolutely there at this receiving core, which it's just about who's going to be the guy who's consistently on the field making those plays, and gelling with this quarterback and offense. Because I legitimately think there are at least 5 receivers where I wouldn't be surprised if they pop off for a 1,000-yard season.
By the way, Preston, congrats on the LSU baseball title. I know you and Kate Anderson did a lot of work. When it comes to that week 1, August 30th, of course, the kickoff between LSU and Clemson, 7:30. How are you feeling about that? We talked about the quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier earlier, but that quarterback matchup between Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik, certainly that's going to get a lot of hype. But in general, those opening games obviously are massive.
Well, hey, man, winner of that quarterback matchup could very well find themselves in the driver's seat to be, the top quarterback selected this year. As you know, that spot is wide open. And I actually believe I've seen the most projections for Arch Manning, which you understand the last name, but he's only started 2 football games. And I don't know how many years where I've seen the projected number 1 pick be a guy who was a backup for a 7th-rounder pick. But anyways, that matchup, believe it or not, it's a non-conference game. There is more pressure on Brian Kelly to beat Clemson than Alabama this year. That means there's more pressure on him to beat Clemson than anyone. And I understand from an outsider's perspective, Preston, that's crazy. Bama, in their first year under the new coach, they're in your pod. You play them every year in the SEC. Well, here's the deal. LSU has lost 5 straight openers. The last opener LSU won was Joe Burrow in 2019 against Georgia Southern. So LSU has dropped 5 straight. And in Louisiana, look, these next 6, it's 59 days till kickoff, okay? Every fan knows right now it's 59 days because we're done with baseball. All we're going to do is live, breathe, and sleep football because we don't have an MLB team down here or nothing. So all we're going to do is think about it. And then when you get to that kickoff and you go there and you just get your butt kicked like they've gotten it kicked for half a decade, it's embarrassing. And it's on national television and everybody sees it and laughs at you. Fans are sick. Sick to their stomach of losing openers. And unfortunately, this is either the toughest or second toughest of those 5 games. So this team's got to be ready to play and win that game. We'll see. It is a tough schedule, but I'm going to tell you this. Looking down LSU's schedule, people ask me about what the ceiling is. I'm like, well, I don't see a team on this schedule where I don't see why LSU couldn't beat them. Clemson did go 0-3 against the SEC last year. Let's not forget. They got embarrassed a few times out there. They lost to South Carolina, who LSU beat on the road. There's reason to believe LSU could win that game, but there's also 5 games where you look at it and it's like, man, I also see why LSU could lose this. So it's kind of crazy to say the floor is 7-5, the ceiling is 12-0. But that's honestly how I feel about this team.
Well, Preston, we really appreciate your time, and I do hope you enjoyed that LSU College World Series parade that you got to attend last night.
Oh, yeah, it was. I'm glad they moved the celebration back to 8 because it was a lot cooler than the 2023 one. But, girls, I got to tell you, I got hired as a reporter here right before the 2019 season, and I'm getting real tired of covering all these championship parades and events. It's a lot of extra work. I really, want to spend more time with my wife and kid, and this is my 6th one I've had to go cover now, so I'm getting exhausted.
Oh, yeah. Paul Skeens and the like.
Yeah. All right, Preston. Well, again, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a good rest of your week.
All right, ladies. Y'all have a nice day.
Thank you,
All right,
too.
Thanks so much, Preston Guy. Fantastic.
Yeah, 4 champions.
Yeah, 6 times at those parades. Must be nice. But yeah, LSU obviously beating Coastal Carolina last weekend for the College World Series. Once LSU won that game 1, I figured it was completely over. And we would love to have a parade here in Jacksonville. I would love that. I did find it funny, his comments about Arch Manning, the fact that you see him as the number 1 projected overall pick in the draft. And a lot of people say he's coming back to Texas, like regardless.
Yeah.
Because that's what the family does. They want to spend all 4 years in their college town. Yeah. And also, did you see what Steve Spurrier had to say? He said, why does everyone think Arch Manning and Texas are unbeatable when Arch Manning couldn't even beat out Quinn Ewers and he was drafted in the 7th round, which have some merit. I mean, yes, Spurrier can be a little, like he can be a little spicy at times, but that comment is true.
Yeah.
Quinn Ewers didn't have a great last part of the season.
Yeah, I was like last year, I was very vocal that I didn't like Quinn Ewers. I wasn't a big fan of Quinn Ewers, and I said when he got hurt that season before Arch Manning came in, and you couldn't tell any difference in their offense. It looked the exact same. And so to me, that was a big indicator that it wasn't really Quinn Ewers. It was kind of everything around. If this young guy who hasn't played a game in college football could come in and nothing drops off whatsoever. And I was kind of adamant about that during the season, and then he drops the 7th round. So.
Yeah, I thought if he had a really good college football playoff, he could change the minds of the NFL scouts, but alas. All right, when we come back, I have promised you RJ's expertise on the NBA draft round 1 for a while now. We will get to that on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Start your day the 1010XL way.
A little more down to earth.
Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser.
You boys could use a little churching up.
The Drill.
So beggars can't be choosers.
Mornings.
That's a good joke. That's humorous.
On 1010XL.
David Garrard here. I've had the PRP treatment from Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, and my knees are really doing well. Platelet-rich plasma treatment may be the answer for whatever is hurting you.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
My son had a meniscus surgery a couple years ago. When it's smooth as silk, Dr. Kevin Murphy did it. Was playing tennis in 2 weeks. This is Patrick Malarkey, and I highly recommend
Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Are you 18 years or older, just got married, just got divorced, or have children? Listen up. Have you done your last will and estate planning? If you have questions, call Matt Hinson with the Hinson Law Firm. Reach him at 527-1700. Office is Jacksonville, Florida. And don't let the state decide your fate.
Hi, I'm Sean Monahan from Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach. Since 1977, we've been Jacksonville's local family jeweler with a beautiful selection of fine jewelry and certified diamonds. But we're also Jacksonville's leading buyer of gold, silver, and diamonds from the public. Gold's recently hit an all-time high at over $3,000 per ounce. Pay bills, buy something fun. Now is the time to sell your gold for cash and get top dollar, or trade it in for a new piece and get even more at Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
Let PGA pros straighten your morning drive with Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser on Brunch with the Tour, Tuesday morning at 8:30 on 1010XL. Teed up by Apex Roofing and Contracting and Clearwater Irrigation. Brunch provided by Chick-fil-A.
Grow your hair back.
IHRS offers the latest technology in hair transplants and restorative treatments.
Fast, easy, and effective.
With over 35 years' experience, our team is committed to delivering exceptional results. Hair restoration is for us, and it can be for you too.
See how IHRS technology can grow your hair back. Go to hairforme.com or call 904-777-IHRS, 777-4477 for $250 off.
Hey guys, Taylor Dahl here of Helmets and Heels. Did you know that Chick-fil-A is testing a new sandwich here in the Jacksonville area from now through July 19th? You can't get this sandwich anywhere else. It's called the Creamy Barbecue Chicken Sandwich. You can get it with the original Chick-fil-A or the spicy version or the grilled option. It's got their delicious seasoned chicken on a buttery toasted bun. Then they top it with creamy barbecue coleslaw. It's crunchy, a little tangy, plus sweet heat pickles that give it just the right kick. Plus it comes with a packet of creamy barbecue sauce on the side, kind of like the Alabama white sauce. Rich, smoky, peppery, ties that whole thing together. Chick-fil-A wants your feedback on the recipe, so stop by any Jacksonville area location before it's gone at your local Chick-fil-A restaurant.
AC Hotline, how can I help?
Help! Our AC isn't working, and my husband's pouring ice cubes down his pants.
Wow. Okay, well, we can help with the AC issue.
Please. I'm afraid he's going to damage something.
Okay, I'm going to connect you with the Duck.
The Doc?
No, the Duck. Duck Air Conditioning. Jacksonville area's AC experts.
Okay, tell them to hurry.
Beat the Florida heat with Duck Air Conditioning. Service, repairs, new installations, commercial or residential. Trust the Duck. DuckAC.com.
I'm Brendan with Checkmate Coating. We transform pool decks, driveways, and patios with pro precision.
Checkmate Coating, your floor's missing piece.
Checkmate Coatings, your floor's missing piece.
Brian and Angela Wall here with Window World. You've heard us talk about it. Window World, the #1 window replacement company in the USA, selling over 1 million windows each year for the past 8 years.
That's a lot of satisfied customers, and why J.D. Powers has awarded Window World Best in Customer Satisfaction 3 out of 4 years.
Window World stands behind their slogan, simply the best for less. With Window World, you get top quality windows at a price that leaves more of your money in your bank account, and you get the absolute best guarantee there is in the window replacement industry. When compared to our competition, there is none. See for yourself. Call the competition. Get quotes from them. But before you buy, get Window World's free estimate and compare the quality of the windows and the price.
You'll see.
And when your new Window World windows are installed and they're saving you money on your energy bills, if anything goes wrong with those windows, Window World and I will be there to make it right. That's my guarantee.
Call Window World today. Start saving money on your new windows and your energy bills, and take vacation with your savings. Window World, online at windowworldneflorida.com.
Window World, simply the best for less. Thank you for your business.
Window World also offers energy-efficient doors and siding.
Maxed out on credit cards, struggling with high-interest debt? You could pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. Hey, it's Prosser here. Get cash out now without touching your low-rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan Program at Loan Pronto is amazing. One Loan Pronto client just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. They paid off debt, renovated their kitchen, and cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. That's a huge turnaround. Instant approvals, low rates, no hard credit pull up front. That's Loan Pronto. Listen, your home equity is yours. Use it. Get cash to consolidate your debt down to one easy, low monthly payment. Call Loan Pronto now for a free instant appraisal for your home and see how much cash you can get today. Loan Pronto is an A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and have nearly 2,500 5-star Google reviews. Call now and start the conversation. Go to loanpronto.com or call 999-1508. That's loanpronto.com.
Spring has sprung, and so have the bugs. It's Hayes Carline and my friends at Kingfish Pest Control offer an exclusive $99 spring special. That's right, your initial pest control service is just $99. And if you call today, they'll include a free one-time mosquito treatment. Kingfish Pest Control is family-owned, 5-star rated with no binding contracts, and 100% satisfaction guarantee. Call them now to book your service. Only at Kingfish Pest Control, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
She'll set the field on fire, just cutting.
I'd like to think I'm a an expert on country music, but one thing I am not an expert on, that would be the NBA in general and the NBA draft. I, of course, paid attention last night because I wanted to see where Walter Clayton ended up, but RJ Saunders is our 1010XL NBA expert. So right off the rip, RJ, outside of Cooper Flagg, of course, going number 1 overall, where were you surprised? Who are some of the winners and losers?
Winners and losers? I mean, of course, probably Dallas. I really want to see how this is going to work out in Dallas. You have a generational tag on a guy that's going to be playing with, if they sign, let's just say Chris Paul, then that's 4 future Hall of Famers. And now I do believe that gives you the best recipe for success. You'll be learning so much from them. But I do want to see what this guy is able to do year one. And I think the world is going to be watching as well to see, the kind of talent that Cooper Flagg is. I was surprised with the Ace Bailey fall, although, he didn't want to go to Utah. Well, learn Mormon.
Yeah, because he declined to work out with them and then was drafted by them.
Yeah.
However,
which people thought he was going to go, second?
Well, many had him slotted to go third to Philly, and he didn't want to go there. I have this weird,
is he a diva?
Weird conspiracy theory. I think they wanted him to go to. I think they had probably a few particular places in mind, and they wanted him to drop personally, but
Philly.
No, he didn't want to go to Philadelphia. But I do believe there's a conspiracy, at least in my opinion, that there may be a move for Ace Bailey if Boston and Utah are still going to be in talks, which were reported. Could Ace Bailey be a part of that trade package to acquire one Jaylen Brown? The only reason why I say that's a conspiracy is, if I remember correctly, the guy that drafted him was Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge is now in Utah alongside his son. That'll just be an interesting thing. This Jace Richardson acquisition by the Orlando Magic, didn't know too much about him. I'm asking Paul Biancardi about him.
Okay.
Didn't know too much, but here's
Famous
a guy.
father. That's what we know.
Yeah, I mean, and how about the Orlando Magic? You've been in the situation where you've drafted the son of Greg Anthony. He's now traded to Memphis. You have the son of Juwan Howard, and now you have the son of Jason Richardson. You like drafting NBA sons. It's great. But, yeah, I think for a team that needed shooting, also probably needs a crafty point guard, which I think he's not a point guard necessarily, at least from what you see. He's not a point guard naturally, but at 6'1.5", they're giving him. He'll have to learn that position, but I mean, he can shoot it with the best of them, and that certainly seems to be something in which the Orlando Magic need, both in the effect of nabbing a point guard and also nabbing a shooter and a guy who is aggressive. So I think
they were one of the worst teams shooting the three last year.
Couldn't even shoot league average.
That's bad.
So I think they're certainly helping with the Bain acquisition as well as the Richardson acquisition. I think they're in a really good spot. A lot of these other guys, I think they're going to be B projects. But if I could add one more guy, it seems that he's intriguing me the most, is Hanson Yang going to Portland. Here's a guy with Clutch Sports that many thought was probably going to be a late second-round pick. But if there is to be another joker in the league, there feels to be, at least by some NBA execs, that this is the guy. This is going to be the next joker. And I don't understand what Portland is doing right now, because you have, between Reith, Clinigan, who you drafted last year, you still have DeAndre Ayton, you still have Robert Williams, now you bring in Yang. I mean, are we going to have a lineup where it's just all centers at all five positions? I don't get it. You're probably going to have to make a move off of some of them soon. But, Yang is definitely going to be a guy in which I'm certainly going to be looking at for the Portland Trailblazers, not only to see if, this is a baby Jokic type of a player, Chinese Jokic type of a player is which they want to call him. But, I mean, at 7'5" and to be, that mobile on both sides of the floor, Definitely. I mean, with the game being as international as it is now, I really want to see what this guy is going to do, because I thought he was going to drop to 55 by the time the Lakers were selected.
Yeah, I saw a D- grade for the Blazers in taking him.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess because of the reach part, but if you hit, then you look like the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah,
I can understand the reach just due to the fact that you have, 70 other centers on your team. I mean, I don't get it. But if you're looking to get off of the Ayton contract and you're looking to get off of the Robert Williams contract, if you can do that sometime this summer, I don't know who's taking that lazy Ayton contract, but and then with Time Lord, I know his name is Robert Williams, but we refer to him as Time Lord. But, I mean, with him, who wants a center, at least right now, as good as he is defensively, you're normally paying more money, to keep his body afloat than he is giving you actual minutes. And that's scary for any team, even if he were to be a guy that the Lakers end up, taking inquiries about. But Hanson Yang, was definitely a guy for me that, I was talking to, a couple buddies and saying, listen, if he falls to 55, I would love for the Lakers to use him as this project type of a player and see what he can be in the next 2 to 3 years, because you're thinking that maybe this is going to be a guy that gets drafted, but you're going to use him as a draft and stash. And normally guys in the lottery, you don't want to draft them and then just stash them away for 2 or 3 years. You want them playing now. But he says he's going to play now. What Portland does, I have no idea. And maybe we see it in the NBA where we see 5 centers on the floor at one time. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see that for sure, but yeah.
How did you feel about the trade up for Walter Clayton by the Jazz?
I think it's a good move. Like I said, I also believe that
Did it ruin the Magic's plan?
No,
Okay.
not at all. I think the Magic did have backup plans. I think McNeely was a guy in which they were going to be interested in. I think Jace Richardson was also, a guy that they were going to be interested in, especially after you let go of Cole Anthony. I mean, an off the bench scoring type of a guard. I understand Anthony Black is the guy that you're going to have probably be the guard coming off the bench, the first guard coming off the bench, but I don't view him as much of a score first guy as much as a defensive guy. So having a guy that shoots at a 41% clip from downtown to also have that alongside Desmond Bane, I really feel helps a lot. But in terms of Utah, I mean, for Danny Ainge's son to honestly, this being his first time at the GM role, I mean, you acquire Ace Bailey at 5, and he thought he wasn't going to go past 3. And you also get Walter Clayton Jr., who I feel for the Utah Jazz, if they're to trade Colin Sexton this summer, that's probably your first guard off of the bench. If you're also trading Jordan Clarkson as well. I understand a lot of things have to go right for the Jazz, but a guy that can immediately come off the bench and score for you in Utah. So
Clayton Jr. is definitely going to come off the bench?
Yeah, I think Clayton comes off of the bench, especially with.
So I don't have to stay up late watching Jazz games.
No, especially with that. Especially with the 5, I think it'll probably be like Collier along with Ace Bailey, Hendricks. Let's see what happens with Walker Kessler, if he is to stay or if he is to go. And then you have Lauri Markkanen in there. So I think that's the 5. And Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, maybe you try to move off of both of them this summer so you can give an opportunity to Walter Clayton Jr. to, continue to grow and develop with this team. So
I loved how emotional he was.
Oh, yeah.
That was so sweet.
I love those moments.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Like you said, if he's coming off the bench, then I feel like that makes some people say he has that lack of defensive prowess, Jr. does. So if he's coming off the bench, then if they're just asking him to be a little bit more of an offensive role player, we know he can do that. And speaking of that, on the other side, we will get to, after the cool down, our heels highlights, as well as our Terminix Pest of the Day. Great job, RJ. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Summer on the First Coast. The heat, the beach. 1010XL. Now that's hot.
Get your radio on.
Hayes Carline here. If you're shopping for a new ride, you've got to check out Atlantic Infinity. Not only do you get a luxury vehicle, you also get the Atlantic Infinity Promise Free with every new car. That's almost $2,500 in added value just for buying smarter, and you don't have to sweat it out on the lot. Shop in their indoor, climate-controlled showrooms. It's cool, comfortable, hassle-free. They're on Atlantic near St. John's Bluff, or browse anytime at AtlanticInfinity.com.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today from GFL, Green for Life.
Yo, it's your main man ET here for Explore Clay. And Clay County is your destination this 4th of July. Start the morning with the Freedom 5K in Keystone Heights. Medals for the first 300 finishers and a scenic course through the shaded neighborhoods. Then enjoy the 57th annual celebration at City Hall with vendors, live music, and family fun. Wrap up the day at Moose Haven in Orange Park for the American Pride 4th of July, a free Riverside event with food, live entertainment, and fireworks over the St. Johns River. Discover more at exploreclay.com.
Start your Saturday with a whiff of the great outdoors.
Captain Kevin Favor here with Captain Kirk and Jeff Loggeman, and we bring you the fresh air of the great outdoors.
On the Nimnit Outdoors Show, presented by Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic and Air Conditioning on 1010XL.
Ready to add some value to your day? The everyday deals at Sonny's have got you covered. Right now, you can get the pork big deal for $10, the pork and rib combo for $12. All you can eat ribs for $19.99, and our new loaded barbecue potato for $11. Available all day, every day. And that's why it's always Sonny's here. Sonny's Barbecue, local pitmasters since '68.
1010XL is a proud supporter of this year's Circle K Greater Jacksonville Kingfish Tournament, the largest fundraiser for marine charities. To join the fun July 10th through 19th at the Jim King Park and Boat Ramp, go to kingfishtournament.com.
DivorceMenOnly.com. This is Kenny Lay of Kenny Lay & Associates. Our firm specializes in representing men in family law. That's all we do. That's our only focus. We can help with all of your family law needs, such as divorce, custody, alimony, and child support. For over a decade, we have helped thousands of men with these types of issues. We even have an appellate division ready to challenge a judge's ruling. If you need a family law attorney, go to DivorceMenOnly.com. DivorceMenOnly.com. Offices, Jacksonville.
We're certainly facing interesting economic times. For me, it's comforting to know my money's in good hands with ITP Partners. Jacksonville guys taking care of my Jacksonville money. Experience? Yeah, that's Chris Bryan, Jeff Hartman, Reagan Wright, Dan Abel, Scott Regner, Janice Cobb, and Reed Wingate. They have the expertise and knowledge to take care of your money. For more info, go to ITPPartners.com. ITP Partners, they're my financial partners for life.
Non-compensated client testimonial may not be representative of all client experiences. No guarantee of future performance or success.
Your home is more than walls and a roof. It's where you breathe, drink, and power through life. At Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, we're here to keep it all running smoothly. From clean, cool air to clean water, reliable power to expert plumbing, we do it all. For over 35 years, families have trusted Donovan to make their homes healthier, safer, and more comfortable. Call Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing today. 904-270-COOL, where health meets home.
Rebound Rehabilitation. 11 great locations across the First Coast, and they're just a click away when it comes to feeling strong and healthy again. If you need the best path to recovery, look no further than Rebound Rehab. Log on and check out one of their great 11 locations.
Mark Watson with Hardball Creative. What's better than beer? Cold beer. Put your company logo on a custom koozie. Check them out at hardballcreative.com.
Hardball Creative. Hardball does it all.
This is Father Nicholas Lowe, and I want to talk to you about being a godly example. Every day, we're setting an example in our words and actions. And many times, we can act one way in one setting and then totally different in another setting. My encouragement for you is to not send out mixed messages. God is depending on you to set the example in people's lives. You don't know, but you may be the only Bible that someone ever sees today.
For more inspiration, log on to stjohnthedivine.com.
Born in Jacksonville, raised on Southern Rock, and coming home to the Florida Theater, it's Molly Hatchet. Saturday, June 28th. Get your fill of Southern Rock fury. Grab your seat at floridatheater.com. It's a hometown homecoming with Molly Hatchet.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Now the cool down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since '87.
If you missed it a little bit ago, we talked to Preston Guy, who covers LSU Tigers for the TigerBait.com. And Lauren, there was a few things that stuck out to me. Number one, we had a conversation a couple months ago, and you posed the question of which quarterbacks would you choose, the ones that were the homegrown, developed through that school, and we were talking about college football, or the ones, these transfer quarterbacks, some of the ones that we've seen, like a Carson Beck, who's transferred to Miami. Garrett Nussmeier, obviously, is one of the prime examples of a guy who stayed and developed and kind of sat and then was able to start, and he took over that starting role last year officially, and you saw that pay off. You saw the comfortability in the offense almost immediately. You saw, and they had one of the worst. We didn't even talk about this with Preston. They had one of the worst run games in the entire college football, and they still had the offense that they did when it comes to sitting towards the top in the SEC in total yardage and total touchdowns and all of that. And they only had 15 rushing touchdowns when the top of the SEC had 47 and 45, and that's a drastic difference. So if
they usually have a good
running game. Yeah. And so if they get that going this year, imagine what that offense can look like. The big question is the defense. How much can Brian Kelly get that on track? But when it comes to the quarterbacks in general, Nussmeier, I think, is just one of those prime examples of what the patience sometimes pays off, because I do even think that if he is drafted high next year, if he ends up being the first, second, third quarterback off the board, that the developmental side and how much time he spent with that one organization and being able to actually hone in on his skills and perfect those skills rather than having to constantly learn new offenses everywhere he goes, I think that's going to benefit him a lot. And I do think we're going to see that connection the next few years. A lot of the rare ones that stay, maybe being a little bit more ready for the NFL than the ones that hop around.
Yeah, he's been at LSU since 2021. Yeah. So he's already been there for 4 years. This will be his fifth and final year. At least I assume it's his final year. But yeah, you talk about that week one matchup for LSU at Clemson, which normally those season openers, those kickoff games are neutral sites. Mm-hmm. And this year, I feel like they're all on a campus site, which is really cool. But yeah, so LSU at Clemson. And so you talk about the other team and its quarterback, Cade Klubnik, also a guy that Dabo Swinney recruited. Now, granted, because it's Clemson, you're not normally going to have the transfer portal guy. Yeah, which just certainly makes sense. But Jaden Daniels was a transfer.
Yeah, he was
portal quarterback. For once upon a time for LSU, and I think he did pretty good. So it's not always going to be a black and white thing, but certainly for this year, when you talk about the Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller, DJ Lagway, the top of the quarterback class, at least how it's projected as we sit here today, all those guys started with one school. They're going to finish with one school. At least I, knock on wood, I sure as heck hope so when talking about the Florida quarterback and DJ Lagway.
Yeah. And that,
if he didn't leave last year, I don't think he's going to leave.
Yeah. I think that it will be interesting to follow the next 10 years of college football, and if we see changes, because we do, when you talk about a lot of the great college football quarterbacks, I feel like the outlier has kind of been Clemson and maybe Georgia, the guys that sit and wait for their turn to be there, and maybe Alabama, I guess. But I think that for a lot of the ones that we've seen,
words, the best
the ones we're talking
for the most
I'm thinking about
college
college, like
State.
Justin Fields. Justin Fields obviously went to a different school. Cam Ward transferred to Miami. I feel like we've started to see a little bit more of that than maybe that we've seen before, of these great quarterbacks and the ones that it's just not working. Whatever the situation, they're all kind of different situations of why those guys had left their schools. But now I feel like we're seeing more and more of those. If you look at the quarterbacks that were drafted last year, how many of them went to multiple schools? And I'm wondering if is this just an off thing, because the NIL and portal just kind of went wild within a few years, and everybody just turned into kind of chaos for a little bit? Or is this what we're going to see now? Is it going to be the future of we're seeing more and more quarterbacks transfer out and kind of go to where they want to play because they can or they can make more money? I'm fascinated of the college football situation where it sits right now and how in 10 years how we're going to be talking about it.
Yeah, we talked about how in the NFL draft, more players that were drafted higher were the ones that didn't transfer. So I do feel like families need to be talking to these guys. Like, if your goal is the NFL, which of course everyone's goal is to make it to the NFL, or at least 90% of them, then you might want to stick it out at your school because your chances of getting drafted higher will increase. Quick note when it comes to the NFL, the Bengals in Hamilton County have agreed to a new deal to modernize Paycor Stadium and keep the Bengals in downtown Cincinnati through June of 2036. So if you're a Bengals fan, that stadium has needed upgrading, certainly. And so this also keeps them there with that new lease. So that's good news for all those Bengals fans up there in Ohio. All right, time now for today's Terminix Pest of the Day. As always, brought to you by our friends at Terminix. They do such a fantastic job. Came by last week, sprayed our front yard for mosquitoes, backyard as well, dropped off some equipment to keep the mosquitoes away from us and our dog. Certainly, we so appreciate them. They take care of Everbank Stadium, ViStar Ballpark, ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena, all of your favorite event venues around town, and any pest termite issues that you may have, find them online at Terminix.com. That's TERMINIX.com. Well, Taylor, this is a sad one, so I'm going to go through it quickly so we can get to our highlights. Today's Terminix Pest of the Day is the person who was responsible for the hit and run that killed Dwight Howard's dog in Swanee, Georgia this past Sunday. He shared the sad news on Instagram, posting pictures and videos, and it's just obviously heartbreaking, especially for those of us who have dogs. I just can't imagine. So you can, if you want to go see, you can certainly Google Dwight Howard's Belgian Malinois, which is a dog in the Shepherd family. Yeah. Howard, by the way, is now playing in the Big Three League after 18 years in the NBA. So thoughts and prayers, honestly, with his family. Like I said, I just can't imagine. It's something that you never want to go through as a dog owner and dog lover. All right, time now for today's Heels Highlights.
Now, Heels Highlights. Unbelievable! On 1010XL.
Walter Clayton Jr. knocks down a 3 to take the lead against Texas Tech in the Elite Eight.
No, I pretty much knew what was coming. Inside Clayton. Have recaptured the lead. 28 points. Clayton. Nobody makes more big shots than that guy.
Brewers young pitcher Jacob Masiorowski outduels Paul Skeens as he strikes out 8.
That is a strike at 102. 1-2 coming. Got him. 102 and he blows it by Cruz.
In honor of Cooper Flagg being selected number 1 overall, let's look back a couple of number 1 overall picks selected on June 26th.
How about that Houdini move by Derrick Rose? Up and under and through the rim. And he's so nonchalant about it. With a pass tipped but handled by Johnson. Johnson is three-point territory but guarded tightly. Johnson cuts left, now fires a 3. It is good, and he's fouled. It counts, and he is fouled.
They get it to LeBron. Turrial's on him at 3 and 2. LeBron to win the game. He does! He does!
Iverson, bothered by Lou. Iverson. How about that? And that steps over Teron Lou.
7 straight points by Iverson. Looked like he was dead in the water.
The Sixers by 4.
I don't know where to stop, but I just want to know when to begin.
I had to throw in Walter Clayton's 3 there. If you are a Gators fan, go rewatch. Not necessarily the full games of the run to the tournament because you'll get your blood pressure up once again. But you can just find on YouTube Walter Clayton's, all of his highlights from the entire tournament.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor, sit down for about 15 minutes, rewatch those. I could have chosen several moments. Obviously, it was his defense that ended the game against Houston there to win the national championship. I still pinch myself that Florida won the national championship in men's basketball. But yeah, I had to include that because he was drafted last night and will play for the Utah Jazz. All right, so
RJ made me sad with the Derrick Rose.
I wondered about that.
I was like, I'm very emotional about Derrick Rose.
Poor Taylor.
Yeah, that clearly Derrick Rose was one of those one of the more devastating moments when he went down in the postseason with that ACL injury. One of the more devastating moments I've had, and I'm not even like that is farther down on my list of teams I follow in my world. But it was still because that was just such a high that the Bulls were in at that point. Like, okay, we're back after the long gap between the Michael Jordan Bulls, and then now this, and finally you're getting something back, and it was just such short-lived. But I love Derrick Rose. We'll always love. I mean, he'll still go. He goes to games all the time still, and so he'll constantly be up on the jumbotron at Bears games or Blackhawks games or Bulls games, and every single time it's a massive standing ovation, and it's really cool to always see how much they've embraced him even after all of the stops since.
Yeah, well done, RJ, with those highlights of the NBA first overall picks that were drafted on June 25th or 26th. And then your highlights.
Mizorowski.
Yeah.
I hate this, but I couldn't not put it in because it was two teams that are in the NL Central. And it's honestly kind of frustrating because all three, the Reds, the Pirates, and the Brewers all have this like phenom pitcher right now because Chase Burns for the Reds has been just absolutely crushing it. And then obviously we know what Paul Skeens does. And then Mizorowski has been absolutely insane too. But we had that showdown between Mizorowski and Skeens, which was everybody was like, this is going to be fantastic. He outdueled Skeens big time, but he's just been incredible. He struck out 8 in 5 scoreless innings, and then Skeens allowed all 4 runs in just 4 innings. And then in 16 innings pitched this year, Mizorowski has 19 strikeouts, just 7 walks, and only 2 earned runs during that time. I can't remember the exact number now, but I saw a stat. The amount of his pitches that hit 100 or 100 plus are also insane. So he pitches very fast, which obviously is hard to hit against. But yeah, it kind of sucks that they're all in the NL Central because that's facing a lot of pitchers who have just throw absolute heat, and it doesn't look, they're all young. And so it's just the beginning of all of this happening. But it's respect too, because it's really fun to watch those type of pitchers. It's just incredible. Some of the things that they do and some of the things that the batters swing at. And I'm just like, I get it. You're like, I would spin into the other world. If I had to go into that. But yeah, so if you haven't watched him pitch, watch him pitch next time he's up because he's incredible.
Yeah, that game was at 2 p.m. yesterday. So
yes.
Everybody at work couldn't really watch unless, you figure out a way to watch and work, which I think makes perfect sense. All right, let's say hello to Matt Hayes.
Now, the 2-minute drill. Serviced by Cool Cats Heating and Cooling. Locally owned and operated. We're your neighbors. CoolCatsJacks.com.
The coolest cats in town.
Matt, there's a question I've been meaning to ask you in the music world that I keep forgetting. So I'm so glad you're here.
Okay.
I'm always so excited to see you, but so glad you're here today. Jimi Hendrix has a song called Let the Good Times Roll. Come on, let the good times roll. Is that a very famous song?
No.
Not a very famous song. But why not? It's so good.
I mean, it's the same as like Crosstown Traffic, which is also not a very famous song.
See, I think Crosstown Traffic is a famous song. Yeah,
I don't know that song.
You don't know
I know the Good Times Roll, but I don't know the Traffic.
Crosstown Traffic, yeah, it's another good one. I was surprised that wasn't higher up there, but yeah.
How did we get to this, by the way?
That song, I was listening to Jimi Hendrix the other day, and that song came on, and I've been meaning, we always text about music, and I've been meaning to ask you, like, why isn't that a more famous Jimi Hendrix song?
I don't know. In fact, I was driving here and listening to Nashville, Tennessee by Chris Stapleton. I'm thinking, why is that not a more popular Chris Stapleton song?
I believe, so my philosophy is that the country music stations don't want to play that song because it actually says some negative things about Chris Stapleton in the song, in the lyrics, is saying some negative things about Nashville, the city of Nashville. And so I don't think country music wanted to embrace the negative side of Nashville. They want it to be a positive thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, let's be honest, a lot of the songs that he has, like, they last so long on country radio.
Right.
You Should Probably Leave, I feel like, was on country radio for like 6 months to a year. Like, come on, there's other songs.
Let's move along.
They know what works for them, and we know what works for us when it comes to sports.
Matt, we had Preston Guy. He writes for TigerBait.com. So we were talking some LSU football. That week 1 game, Clemson versus LSU, Cade versus Nussmeier, and he was saying, that's the potential. You're talking about the potential number 1 quarterback going in that following draft, depending obviously what happens this season. But that's the conversation right now. What do you think that game looks like? Is it a quarterback duel in that game?
It's so funny because I was just talking with my editor about that. He's like, where do you want to go week 1? He was saying Ohio State, Texas, and I'm like, LSU Clemson is everything. I mean, if you're Brian Kelly, you cannot lose that game.
They've lost 5 straight opening games.
Oh, yeah.
But 3 under him.
Yeah.
You can't.
The last time they won one, Eddie O was the head coach. Ed Orgeron was.
You just cannot lose that game. And if you're Clemson, you're not losing at home, are you? For a team you prepared for 9 months?
Yeah.
But after the first time you've gone into the portal and got 3 guys that are impact guys, including a really good edge from Purdue. So you're Clemson and you've got now a 3-year starting quarterback. You've got probably the best defensive line in the nation. You're going to lose at home to LSU in week 1.
And LSU has really good transfers in along that defensive front, too.
In fact, Brian Kelly said this is his most talented team. So to me, that's the big game of week 1. That's where somebody's going to be like, wow, right? I didn't see that coming. And that's, to me, that's
the best roster ever constructed.
But LSU lost. We remember.
24 years.
Yeah, LSU lost to Florida State a few seasons ago, and still, obviously, had it had a better defense, LSU would have won the national championship.
That game was so fun.
Yes.
That game was fun. That was Jordan Travis.
I would agree with that they could stop anybody. They were so good on offense in November. They could have beaten anyone. I agree.
Yeah. All right, what's coming up on XL Primetime?
We're going to get into some college football action. You know when the Phil Steele magazine comes out, he's very big on returning starters and stuff.
Right.
So we're going to look at schools that have a high percentage of returning starters and what their odds are to get to the 12-team playoff.
Okay. Well, I can tell you one team that's not going to have a lot of returning starters that still might make the playoff, and that's Ohio State.
Yeah.
But we will be listening to see what y'all have to say about it.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Matt. All right, that'll do it for us today. For Taylor Dahl, who's on vacation tomorrow.
I am. Yes, heading out to the Panhandle.
Enjoy the weekend for RJ Saunders, who will be on the drill tomorrow. So mixing everything up.
Yeah, it's vacation season.
That's what it is. I'm Lauren Brooks. These heels are made for talking. We will talk to you tomorrow, but don't go anywhere. XO